yake thutha wa kuthoma budget ya mwaka wa 2024 mwaka wa 2025
is behaving in terms of stability and the exchange rate. The relative price structure is very, very important for us because it shows the allocation. Actually, it is the relative price structure is the one that signals allocation of resources. But as I said, that economic recovery is fragile. It can be devoured by, like, for example, the weather shocks. We have seen massive weather shocks. How do we protect it? That's why you notice that I spent more time in terms of measures to protect that fragile growth. One of them is through investments. We have to increase production and productivity. That is very, very important for us. It is very, very important to also to know that that recovery is anchored on revenue generation. And that revenue generation is through taxes and levies and fees, because we don't have capacity for any left capacity for extra or additional debt. We are already suffering from heavy debt burden. So in a sense, we want to make sure that we institute those reforms, those programs, those projects, and even intervention measures that will protect that growth. And that's where we are. And you see that the theme itself is very, very important. We want to make sure that we accelerate bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We want to invest in mitigation and adaptation because of climate change, and want to create strong resilience. That is very, very important to us, and that is why that theme is very, very important. So I think that is a nice summary, given that you may not even hear what I'm saying. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. That is my summary, because I think most of the issues that we talked about, but I wanted to summarize what is the where is our important point of contribution. Where, first of all, is to understand where we are. Secondly, is to understand where we are coming from. And third, we have to define where we are going and take steps towards where we are going. And that is where we believe it's very, very important. We have challenges in terms of employment, especially our youth. We have problems in terms of fighting poverty and inequality, because these devastating consequences of climate shocks actually impact more on poverty, reversing poverty efforts, and even creating more inequality. And that is something that we do. So maybe I can take questions. Godfrey? There is no discrepancy. We are starting from saying how much deficit can we manage given the times we have. You have to realize that whenever you have a fiscal gap, fiscal deficit, you are accumulating debt in future. We have no space to accumulate debt. So in a sense, we have all rationalized and come back to that figure. That figure is the one we have nationalized, and that is an objective we have to create for us all. Yes.
One, this morning, Treasury has given the physical deficit at 5.7 billion. That is different from the figure that we had. What has informed this change of the physical deficit figure that is we are getting today, and the way that you are making the public pronouncement? And secondly,
let me first of all answer that. That is the one. That is the policy we are pursuing, out of considerations, discussions, and even looking at where the resources are. We are going to move to a 3.3% fiscal gap, fiscal deficit, and that is the figure we are going to live in. Compare that with last fiscal year. We were at 5.7%, about 925 billion. We cannot continue doing that. It's related to her question that the moment we have a higher deficit, we are accumulating debt. Debt today, it means that it has to be repaid tomorrow. So we are increasing future cost. That's the whole idea. Then the most important thing, and maybe coming from the private sector, you have to understand, the moment you see a larger fiscal deficit, it tells you that government is going to finance that budget through borrowing, all it is, and that can contribute to instability in future, because if you don't borrow adequately. The second thing is that you are going to see a lot of instability because you are accumulating debt in the future. So we have to say, how much resources do we have? How can we remit that gap? And that is where, after due consideration and going through and checking through all our resources, we have said that that is what we have to live with. That is what is likely to support growth. I started by saying we need to support that fragile growth. You don't support that fragile growth by running a large deficit, isn't it? You start taking stock in terms of where the pain points are.
The issue of pending bills, the figure that you gave is what one would say does not even qualify to be termed as a drop in the ocean. But the question I want to ask, some time back there was an audit on the pending bills, which seems that it's clear that we are still deep in the hole. The question of the pending bills, what happened to the audit?
I don't know about the audit. What I know is that we have a committee that is verifying that is legally going to do its work. The second thing is that we are starting from 2005 to 2022. What is it? We want to make sure that we stem that pending bills menace, isn't it? We don't want to know. We don't want to talk about how much will be the pending bills. What we have reported is how many cases came up and how much before the verification process is going on. But the bottom line is this: that audit is not equivalent to the committee that we have. We are creating a finality. There could have been an audit. It may have given some pointers in terms of where we are. But right now, we want to make sure that we cross that chapter. We cross that chapter because pending bills is a menace. On one side, those who are still holding debt on the government and have not been paid for years, as we are starting from 2005, you can imagine what it means to their suffering, what happens to their investment, and what happens to their businesses. That's why we want to say this is the end of that. We want to do this with a finality. We should appreciate that and look at history and try to live down that bad history. We want to live it down by coming to a finality. Okay? I showed that the wage bill consumes 38.2%, isn't it? It is very clear. You said it very clearly. You know, I am a teacher. Please, I have to mark your exams if you are not careful. But the most important thing is that we have to move to the recommended rate of 35%, isn't it? The second thing is that we also need to look at the mix, the skills mix. And there is a ratio in public sector. That's why we want to go back to SRC and say, please, let's get back. First of all, we freeze everything. And second, let's go back to the mix. And third, let's also try to see what other measures can help us in terms of improving this. Efficiency in public sector is not the numbers. It should be the quality, isn't it? And that is the premise, and that is the pillars at which I try to show how public finance, the management or even the processes we are referring to SRC to help us in terms of this. It is painful, as you can see, if it's 38.2% in terms of total budget, total outlay expenditures, is very high. But we are also moving an extra step to say we have to have the quality mix. Okay.
Clarification on
yes.
Maybe since you have asked,
no. Please. Yeah. Okay. We first want to will. No, sir. Okay, please. Okay. Is it pending bills or public debt? Okay.
Haven't put any allocation. is 10 billion. And 110 was part of the KBC loan. So what was verifiable is 10. The rest would be 10.
Okay. I explained the process, and because this is too much economics, I explained the process of pending bills verification. I explained the process. I even showed how many people had come through. What we have allocated is actually specific to a particular case, but we want to wait until we've given ourselves to October and solve this problem once and for all. And that's the question I was answering him. We are familiar with how much suffering. We are starting from 2005. That's a long period, isn't it? We're starting from 2005. But what we are really saying is that it will never happen again. We want to close it in finality. I hope one day you translate it in Swahili for me, but I wanted to make sure that I make that point very clearly, because where we are moving from June 2005 to October to October 2022 is because we want to close that chapter. We want to close that chapter and make sure that when you do business with the government, your business should not sink, isn't it? Your business should not sink because you had business with the government, because you ended up lending to the government, not actually lending, doing business, but you are not paid for the business that you covered, and it means that you suffered. We want to make sure that it's that I called it a dirty history that we have to leave down. How do we leave it down? We finish this verification, we sort it out, we have avenues of sorting it out, and close that chapter once and for all. But the other thing is that the other thing I wanted to add to him, we actually talked about implementing the accrual accounting. It means we are putting a trap, a line saying from July, from 1st July 2024, we will not have any pending bills, because we are now moving into accrual accounting. I elaborated that. You can join that and you can see how it's a good result. To be a happy ending, but it's a dirty history that we need to solve, isn't it? Pending bills, they have been quite problematic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, because the speaker is waiting for me. You have asked 2 questions. You cannot be monopoly. You know, in monopoly cases, you raise your price.
Thank you. Asanteni.
No tũrathiĩ na mbere na kũthathaũra marĩa magĩkorwo makĩthomwo thĩinĩ wa budget ya mũthenya wa ũmũthĩ.